guys, Rich here. Welcome back to the RCINFORMER YouTube channel. We are on our way to the new flying field. We're just coming up here to the entrance. Looks like Wes is already out there mowing some grass. We're getting ready to prep the area for a temporary runway. And he's on the mower there riding. We're coming on in now. And we're going to get to work, and we'll be showing you guys how we're going to get the runway installed. So let's see, there's Wes on my tractor. Let's see what he's doing. All right, man, how's it going? I'm just doing a little video.
What's up?
Wes is out here farming for me. So
Farming. Got out here on the tractor.
Yeah, I was just letting everybody know we're getting we're just prepping the ground out here, and we're kind of getting ready to put a temporary runway. So we're just getting it all laid out so we can get something down, so we can be doing some flying off it, right? So, all right, man, you ready to go? I'll go park and we'll get going. All right?
Yeah.
All right, man. See you in a bit. Welcome back, everyone, to the RCINFORMER Aerodrome. Things are finally starting to come together here at the new field. Over the last 2 weekends, we started and completed the installation of our temporary runway. We decided to use a smaller runway as a test bed and sort of a proof of concept platform that we hope will be the prototype version of our final runway installation, which we plan to be about 300 feet long by 30 feet wide. Because our runway material is a bit unproven, we wanted to test a smaller version of the runway before we put the full effort and resources into making our final larger runway. So let's see how it goes. We basically needed to see if our installation method would work, and so far it seems to have worked really great. What we are doing here is slightly different than what you may have seen at most fields. Rather than asphalt, grass, or geotextile alone, we are using a special non-woven felt fiber runway material made by Milliken Manufacturing. It was graciously donated to us by Pat Hartness of the Triple Tree Aerodrome. I would like to extend a special thanks to Pat for offering me the material to use. Pat is probably the world's biggest advocate of the RC hobby, and he's always willing to help new fields get started. The material he gave us is similar to the material that Pat used at Joe Knoll at the electric line, but it is a much more robust and thicker and somewhat rigid. Pat also gave me the material in part to see if I could help him figure out a way to seam it properly, as it is unfortunately only produced in 5-foot wide rolls. That's right, I had to put on my engineering coat and grab my slide ruler to figure out how to make this stuff work. Using a geotextile definitely would have been a lot easier, but when I saw this material, I felt it would be superior to any other surface if I could just figure out a way to join the rolls together and make the runway wide enough and tough enough to last against the elements. The material is actually manufactured specifically to be used as a liner and a sound suppression damper for the inside wheel wells on automobiles. So it's designed to handle moisture and the elements, and that's the perfect attributes for any runway. It's also very rigid but soft to the touch. It has a good balance of being a hard surface, kind of like asphalt, but without the damaging effects of asphalt or the black runway rash you get from geotextile. With a U-Haul trailer in tow behind Steve's truck, he and I headed up to Knoll in the fall 2022 to pick up the runway material and do a little flying as well. So anyone who was wondering why we were there for only a day, well, that's why. We were just short on time. We acquired the runway, did a little flying, headed home, and a good time was had by all. With our runway material now safely back at the field, it took some time for me to develop a method for joining it. After extensive testing and trying tons of tapes, staples, and glues, I decided that gluing the seams would be the best option, and one adhesive stood out as absolutely the strongest stuff I've ever seen for use on a porous material, and that is Gorilla Maximum Strength Clear Construction Adhesive. It's repositionable, clear, works underwater, fills gaps, is incredibly strong. It absorbs and binds this runway material together better than anything else I tried. And after talking to the guys at Gorilla Glue, I found out it has an ultra high UV rating as well. All the characteristics that are perfect for a runway. But there's a catch. It's stupidly expensive and only comes in 9-ounce caulk tubes. But as Howard Hughes once said,
I care very much about aviation. It has been the great joy of my life. That's why I put my own money into these planes, and I've lost millions, Senator Brewster, and I'll go on losing millions. It's just what I do.
Fortunately, I won't lose millions. God knows we've all spent lots of our own money on planes, and it's worth it to me to do the job right. I found this adhesive to be the key to making this runway material work, and the combination of this material and adhesive made the perfect match for each other. None of the other adhesives I found even came close to giving me the confidence to commit to combining this material into a usable runway. So I pressed on with what I think will be a winning combination. Installation was actually quite simple. Once we figured out how to do it procedurally, it became easy enough once we got into a rhythm. It just proved to be a lot of work, and it's very time consuming, but well worth the end result. While the final version of the runway will be a more prepared, leveled, and graded foundation, we decided to just cut the grass as low as we could and try it over the grass to see how it works in a worst case scenario situation with almost no prep work. After Wesley and I mowed the lawn as low as we could, we started by rolling out a 300-foot length of material, and we cut it in half so we could seam the two together. Then we eyeballed the first piece to be sure it was straight and stapled it down on the full-length edge that would not be glued with 12-inch landscape staples into the ground. It was super important to get the first piece straight, as it would set the parallel alignment of all the other rows that would be added after. Next, we lined up the second piece of the runway next to the first, and then we began our preparation for gluing. The idea here is to glue the runway pieces together and also join them with a non-woven fiberglass weed barrier underneath to make a composite fiberglass glue joint, and this is what the finished product should look like. Essentially, we are taping it together from the underside, but instead of a peel and stick tape, we're using a glue-on fiberglass joiner, which is a landscape fabric, from the underside with glue to bond it all together. This makes a really tough composite joint. Now, to accomplish all this on grass, we needed a 6-inch wide board underneath. The board is used as a hard surface underneath to press the glue into the material from both the underside via the board and top side by using a 1-inch wallpaper roller to roll the glue into the material from the top. We started by gluing the underside fiberglass weed barrier to the underside of the runway material with the caulk gun. Then we joined the runway seam on top and then applied more glue on top. The top glue was then rolled down hard into the seam with the 1-inch wallpaper roller. This rolling action on the top seam simultaneously pressed the glue that was previously added to the underside upward into the joint, due to the board being underneath. Man, that was a lot of work, but it did work well. Once the 8-foot section was press glued on the board, we could then slide the board by pulling it with a handle another 8 feet and repeat the gluing process as we went along for the next 8 feet and so on. As the 8-foot board was advanced, we held the seam together with landscape staples that were inserted into the ground while the glue dried as it sat on top of the grass. The glue sets up pretty quick, and it's tacky enough to keep the pieces together. One more item to note: the glue goes right through the fiberglass joiner weed barrier and will stick to the board. Therefore, we used a 4-inch wide roll of wax paper that I cut with a bandsaw, and we used it between the fiberglass and the board to keep it from sticking to the board. At the end of the day, we stapled the edges to the ground, and we had a completed 145 foot by 10 foot runway. After conducting a few flights, we learned a few things. One, it's a bit bouncy due to the ground underneath, but we think this will diminish after the grass dies and the runway settles. The second thing we learned is that 10 feet is a little bit too narrow for a larger airplane, so we decided to add another row to the runway and make it 15 feet wide. The third thing we learned, the seam was a bit wavy due to it not fully curing on a hard flat surface. And the fourth thing we learned, the seam worked beautifully. Looking at the underside, we could see that we had a great composite fiberglass glue joint. Since this is a test runway and we are testing different methods, we decided to change tactics for the next row of material in an effort to perfect the seam. Here's what I came up with. Instead of moving the board and letting the glue dry on the uneven grass, I decided to make a reusable seaming jig out of 8-foot long boards that run the entire length of the runway. We connected the 18 sections together end to end with metal repair plates and then flipped it over so we had a continuous flat surface to glue on. This way we could secure the glue seam joint by holding it together with T50 upholstery staples to the board while the glue cured. This ensured a super flat seam the entire length of the runway. Again, we lined the board with wax paper to keep it from sticking to the runway, and this time 2 layers of fiberglass were used to make the joint even stronger. We went ahead and glued the seam incrementally in 10-foot segments at a time, securing it to the board using the upholstery staples. We rolled the glue exactly as we did before and left it overnight to dry. The next day, we simply lifted the runway material and the jig popped off the underside to reveal a perfect seam. We could tell right away that using this method of stapling the runway onto the longboard proved to make a superior and much smoother seam. The rest is pretty much history. After putting in our 12-inch landscape staples along the perimeter of the runway, we now had a really nice 145 by 15-foot runway to use and evaluate over time. We will see if it settles to the ground well and the wrinkles hopefully come out and that it holds up to the harsh elements of the Florida weather. If all goes well, we will plan on putting in a 300-foot version in the near future. I'd like to give a special thanks to Bill, Steve, Bob, Wes, Rudy, Jerry, and of course, Papa Boozer for helping out with the runway. Lori and Skip also helped out a lot, helping us glue and filming the drone footage for this video. So that's it for today, folks. So far, we're really happy with how the runway turned out, and we now have the field set up to really start bringing you more great video content. You're definitely going to want to stay tuned to the RCINFORMER YouTube channel as we post new updates on the progress of the field, our new building, as well as new video reviews and flight demos that are coming from the new field. As usual, thank you for supporting the RCINFORMER YouTube channel and sharing our videos. Also, to follow our progress on the new field development and new videos to come, be sure to click that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell to get alerted of new progress uploads to the channel. We also have updated discounts for you in the description box below, so you can use those codes with the product links that are also below so you can save on your next purchase. And again, clicking on our product page links in the description box below and making a purchase through the link supports the RCINFORMER YouTube channel at no cost to you, and we greatly appreciate the support. As always, I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Welcome to the RCINFORMER field, and we will see you in the next upload.